Stop procrastinating and just let God cook. What do I mean by that? There's definitely a time for everything. We know in the Bible it says there's a time to weep, there's a time to be happy, there's a time to rejoice, a time to cry. It goes through all these different, on one hand, there's this time for this, and then there's another time for this. So while there is a time for waiting and trying to be still and listening for God's voice, there's also a time where you're just simply procrastinating. And especially as young men, whenever we have these big decisions to make in life, what we're going to do as a career, the type of man that we're going to become, and just overall these big decisions, I find that we procrastinate. And I know this to be true because I've spoken to a lot of people, in their early 20s or late teenage years, these young men that are just trying to figure life out. And through what I've learned in the Bible and in my own life experience is that if you're not in a season of waiting on the Lord and being still and listening to God's voice, don't be oblivious to the fact that you could be standing in God's way, simply procrastinating because you're acting out of fear instead of living life and walking by faith. And this is not just to say some motivational stuff or whatever. It's not any of that. It's real. It's actually applicable things in your life. And one of the things that I think about is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. How can we be submitting to God if we're not giving him anything to work with? That's the perspective that I want to get across in this video. Sometimes we can sit back, we can plan, we can establish our strategy, whatever you want to say, however you want to look at it, but do not hold God back from working amazing things in life because you're tricking yourself by just simply being lazy and procrastinating and not getting out there and actually making things happen. Whenever you submit to the Lord, it looks like, I would say, different things for different people. For me, that was submitting my own desires in the sense of my selfish desires, what I wanted in a career, how much money I wanted to make. Because God was calling me to make these YouTube videos for a while, and I acted out of fear, and I didn't do it. For so long, I was acting as if I was in a waiting period in my life, but really I was just ignoring God. And I knew his calling for me. I heard his voice. I knew what he wanted me to do, but I ignored it. I used that time of waiting as an excuse for laziness, and I don't want that for you. Because starting these videos has been one of the best things I've decided to do, and all it is an act of obedience and listening to the Lord. Because I'm getting just as much as you're getting out of these videos, I'm getting even more because it's growing me as a person, it's growing me as a man. And it's bringing me closer to the Lord and allowing me to grow in areas that I otherwise would have been stagnant in because I wouldn't be talking about a topic. For example, if I feel like God puts it on my heart to talk about how to resist temptation and I'm still dealing with that in my own life, I gotta figure it out and put it into practice so I can share with y'all what actually works. Yes, God has a plan for your life. We see this in Jeremiah 29:11, Romans 8:28, like all over the Bible. And I'm sure you can quote a couple one-liners. And we see it in a bigger picture throughout the Bible too. So it's not a matter of, does God have a plan for me? Does God have a purpose for me? He does. And it may be a specific thing, like, he wants you to be a music artist, or he wants you to be a YouTuber, or he wants you to be a plumber. I don't know. But the thing that most people get confused when it comes to God's will for your life and like living your life is you don't have to figure it all out before you actually start taking steps and start taking action. And that's where I'm getting the procrastination and the laziness from, is so many people are waiting for God to reveal every little thing in their life, every little part of his will, and everything that he has planned for them before you take the first step. And that can be a form of laziness. It can be a form of you don't trust God. It can be you wanting to have all the control and know everything, know all the little steps of the way before you actually commit. And that is not living by faith. At least it wasn't for me. Living by faith was the act of stepping out of my comfort zone in all areas of my life, not just making these videos, but not waiting on God to reveal every step of the path, but instead trusting that God would, in each and every step that I take, I plant one foot in front of the other. You can't even see my feet. I plant one foot in front of the other, and all I'm doing is focusing on that next step. I'm not looking 100 steps down the road of where I'm going to be at in 5 years and getting worried and caught up about that. All I'm doing is submitting my plans and my desires and everything to the Lord, and He will make my path straight. And that's exactly what He calls us to do. So whenever you get caught up in trying to figure out God's will for your life, or you're in like a waiting period, I'm not saying that there's not a reason or not a time for that. But man, we use as an excuse for laziness way too much, especially as young men, 18 to 25 years old, like figuring out your life and your career and everything. You say, I'm going to wait till God reveals to me what His plan is for my life before I start doing that. But the thing is that is not what walking by faith is like. Walking by faith is taking each step in front of the other and relying on God to light up your path every single step of the way, instead of saying, okay, God, I'm not starting until you can show me the finish lines so that I know it's 100% going to work. And there's no, if there's any twists and turns along the path, I'll know that before going into it. If there's any bumps in the road, I can be prepared. That's not what living by faith is. Living by faith is that one step in front of the other. And when you come into a fork in the road and you have to make a decision, you're already living by the fruits of the Spirit. You're already so trusting in God that you don't even have to make the decision. You're just focused on putting one step in front of the other, focusing on God, and you look back and you have made already 5 decisions and 5 crossroads, if that makes any sense. Another thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is just be careful what you pray for. Because, for example, if you're a 21-year-old about to be a father like myself, and you want to be the best dad that you can possibly be, and you ask God, give me, or God, make me a leader. Make me this great father figure in my son's life. Make me the best husband to my wife. Lord, grant me the patience to, in every situation, act out of love, and give me the discipline to be a role model to my kid. Then you better believe that God's going to give you situations that require discipline and patience and things that build that character in you. He's not just going to grant you something in the snap of a finger. Think about it this way. If a father wants to teach his kid hard work and discipline, he's not just going to snap his fingers and tell him how to do it, and because it doesn't stick that way. You can read as many books as you want about discipline, hard work mindset, but the best way that it's actually going to stick for you and you can apply it to your own life is to actually have situations in life, trials and tribulations and seasons of your life that require discipline out of you, that like build you under pressure and forge you in the fire, if that makes any sense. And what I've learned is that God is no different. Whenever you're learning different things in your life, it's really that simple. If you pray for peace, God might bring you a storm that requires you to rely on Him so you can feel that peace. So I guess what I'm saying is don't be surprised whenever, if you pray for one thing, that God brings a season of your life to build you, because that's what a loving father will do, because He wants what's best for His children. Growing in my faith has been really interesting because I'm learning so much about God and His character and honestly how we walk as Christians, not just putting your nose down and working and grinding away at trying to become better or do better and be a better Christian. It's actually just focusing on God. and relying on him and submitting to his will. So if you're trying to become a better Christian, or you're trying not to sin, that's actually not even the way to go about it. The way to go about it is actually being so focused on God that you don't even want to sin anymore. You just simply become an embodiment of Christ. Because you have respect for him, you have reverence to him, you have love for him. You want what he wants for you. Oh. To tie it all together, maybe the idea is that in order for God to give you what he really has for you, it requires a little bit of action, a little bit of stepping out in faith every single day and building that discipline, building that character, so that you can be in the right position to be able to receive the blessing from God. I'm very interested to see your thoughts on what I've said in this video, so please feel free to comment. You're not going to hurt my feelings by disagreeing with me or anything like that. I'm never going to sit here and say I have it all figured out. So please comment down below and let me know what you thought, or if you disagreed or agreed or want to elaborate on any of the topics that I discussed. In summary, sometimes we need to just get out of God's way. We need to actually walk by faith and not use us waiting on God to reveal everything as an excuse for laziness for our life. I hope this made sense. Have a great rest of your day and God bless.